Welcome. It is Mitch. I am on YouTube. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Appreciate all the followers as we try to build this thing up from nothing to something. These guys know how to make it interesting. Packers take care of the Rams. Nail biter at the end, 24-19, moved to 3-2 on the season. Rams enter the bye week now at 1-4. That was a desperate Rams team. You knew you were going to get their best shot. Their best shot looked pretty damn good in the first half. Opportunistic on defense, ran it down Green Bay's throats on offense. And, for them going into a bye week, 2-3 looks a hell of a lot better than 1-4. That's why you knew you were going to get their best shot. Now the Rams going to their bye week at 1-4, and they're starting to look and see if things are really coming off the tracks for their season, because it's hard to dig out of that hole in the NFL. You're 5 games in, you only get 17 cracks at it, and you're 1-4. And so Green Bay, I think we all knew, was going to get a really good punch, some good jabs. Green Bay would have to counter punch. They did just enough to get a 24-19 win. It's the instant reaction. Mitch, I'm on YouTube. We always bounce around all over the map on these. I want to start backwards a little bit before diving into a couple of things that happened early on that caught my eye. Green Bay's up 24-13 with 6:02 left. Rams have the ball. They're starting inside their own 10. I was screaming at the TV. The defensive calls by defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley were so frustrating. I get you don't want to get beat deep there. You don't want to give up a one-play drive and a 91-yard touchdown. I understand that. But giving the Rams 10 yards, 12 yards, 14 yards, 13, 16, like big chunk plays, the Rams scored to make it 24-19. Thankfully, did not get the 2-point conversion. That missed extra point early on for the Rams in the first half after they had that pick six of Jordan Love came back to kind of bite him in the ass a little bit because they needed a touchdown at the end, had to go for 2 on their what was their last touchdown instead of just needing a field goal to tie the game. But the Rams, with 6:02 left, get the ball. It's 24-13 Green Bay. And, respectfully, Hafley treated it as if Green Bay was up like 28 and the game was already in the bag. The Rams went 91 yards in 2 minutes and 32 seconds. And Green Bay just won. They're 3-2. I'm happy. But it's not, you got to zone in on a couple of things that are frustrating. That was, Jim Nantz said during the broadcast when the Rams had entered the red zone on that drive, he said, "This looks like practice." That was his direct quote. He's like, "This looks like practice right now for the Rams." In Green Bay, again, I know you don't want to get beat deep and you don't want to give up the long touchdown with 5:30 left. But the Rams went 91 yards in 2 minutes and 32 seconds. And I know the Packers aren't the only team that does that in those situations. It's just really frustrating because you're telling your guys, hey, don't be aggressive. Hey, don't be opportunistic. Just don't get beat deep. It's one of those mentalities where at that stage you're playing not to lose instead of going for the dagger. And it was incredibly frustrating to watch. And then the Rams, of course, get the ball back. And then you do have to start playing aggressive again. And so you have to change your gears as a player again. And Hafley started dialing up some blitzes late. Green Bay hit home once, rushing 4 on a second down, which forced the Rams to use their last time out with a little more than 60 seconds to go. But I was so frustrated. And you could see it coming a mile away. I mean, it was just one play after another. Stafford's just playing pitch and catch with some backup wide receivers because Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are out. So I did not like that, and it made, I think, all of us walk on eggshells there for a few minutes because Green Bay ended up having to punt it back. I don't know what was going on with Daniel Whelan today. He's been, and I'm battling a cold if I sound a little stuffed. Daniel Whelan's been sensational so far this year for Green Bay, and he was pretty miserable today. I don't even know how long that last punt was, but I don't think it was over 35 yards. It was somewhere around 30 on that last punt. It gave the Rams tremendous field position, so I don't know what was going on there, but that second to last drive for the Rams was so frustrating because I think we see it in football so much, and you're literally like, hey, we'll give you points. You're just going to have to chew up some clock to get there. 91 yards in 2 minutes and 32 seconds. I digress, though. A couple of takeaways from this one. Mitch, I'm on YouTube. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Packers beat the Rams 24-19, moved to 3-2 on the season. Green Bay has a number 1 wide receiver. They do. And I don't think I'm cherry picking. I don't think I'm reacting to the moment in the moment. I know Romeo Doubs was out due to suspension. I know Christian Watson was out injured. I know a lot of people are high on Dontavian Wicks. He had at least 1 drop today. I think he might have had 2. He's kind of had the yips the last couple of weeks. This isn't a small sample size that I'm trying to judge it off of at this point. Jayden Reed's a number 1 wide receiver. That catch in the first quarter, I texted a couple of buddies afterwards, and I was like, I think we got a number 1 wide receiver, and it's Jayden Reed. He can play in the slot. He can play on the outside. That catch was sensational. And remember, too, the games without Jordan Love against Indianapolis and Tennessee, the stats didn't pop out for Jayden Reed. But when you have your backup quarterback in, there's still so many ways to incorporate him in the game, in those jet motions, putting him in the backfield. And again, he's so versatile. You can put him in the slot, put him on the outside. He feasts no matter what. He did it all the way dating back to his days at Michigan State. I remember his draft profile was very heavy on, hey, don't let the size fool you. He can play outside. And so I think Green Bay, I feel confident saying it, they have a wide receiver one at this point. Now, is it a Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase type wide receiver one? Jayden Reed's in his second year. We can pump the brakes a little bit there. But for all the talk about Green Bay having a cast of guys and it can be any guy on any given week, well, I think that is still somewhat true. Jayden Reed needs to get his touches, his targets, his looks week in and week out. He's earned it. He deserves it. And he's stepping up to the plate when his number is called upon. That deep catch in the first quarter down to the 1 yard line, the 2 yard line, that was not an easy catch. Now, the throw by Love ended up looking pretty damn good, but you got to give Reed the large piece of the pie there if we're divvying up the congrats and the credit, I guess I should say, for that catch. It ended up being pretty much triple coverage by the Rams. Reed's head got smacked on the play, and he still had the concentration and the athleticism to haul it in. I think they have a wide receiver one. I really, really do, and I feel so good about Jayden Reed. Look at the numbers against the Eagles with Jordan Love. The numbers today were great as well. Green Bay didn't have to pass it too much. They hit on some big chunk plays. That one to Reed, the touchdown to Tucker Kraft. If you look at pass attempts for Jordan Love, a hell of a lot lower than what we saw last week when they were playing catch-up against Minnesota, which is good. You don't want Jordan Love throwing it 50 times a game. But I do. I think they have a legitimate, bona fide number one wide receiver, and his name is Jayden Reed. And he's versatile as hell, and he can play anywhere on the field. And if anyone needed this to be said, the aforementioned Tucker Kraft, that's your tight end one. That's your tight end one. I know he was the third-round pick last year. Luke Musgrave was the second-round pick. Tucker Kraft's incredible, and he can do it all. Tucker Kraft, I've mentioned Musgrave as like the vertical threat. Tucker Kraft's just as important, not as a vertical threat, but in the yak department. I mean, you see the yards after catch on that touchdown he had, and the dude can turn it up a little bit. He's got some jets for a tight end, and he's so damn good in the run blocking game. He's the complete package for Green Bay, and I think they really, I don't know if I want to call it a home run yet because it is only his second season, but man, Tucker Kraft, there's your tight end one. And it's no disrespect to Luke Musgrave, and just like I anointed Jayden Reed wide receiver one, that's no disrespect to Watson, Dobbs, Wicks, Melton, Heath, any of those guys. It's just becoming clear. And it's very clear at tight end at this point, and at wide receiver, that picture just kind of started to get into focus a little bit more today. And I know they were missing two heavy hitters again with Dobbs and Watson, but to me, Reed's your wide receiver one, which to me, all that means is he needs to get looks every week. It's not, hey, we need to keep, spreading the wealth. Like, obviously hit the open guy. But Reed, to me, has ascended to the point where he just deserves looks now every single week, deserves targets, deserves that when you roll out the blueprint and you roll out the game plan, if you're Matt LaFleur, Adam Stenavich, and the rest of the offensive crew for Green Bay, Reed's always a factor. Reed's always a big part of that game plan moving ahead to Arizona next week, Houston after that, Jacksonville, so on and so forth. That's what I mean when I say Jayden Reed is Green Bay's number one wide receiver. He needs to be a part of the game plan and a focal point of the offense heavily moving forward and beyond for this team. And Tucker Kraft, just another sensational game for him. So Green Bay beats the Rams 24-19. Mitch, I'm on YouTube. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I took a couple of bullet points, but again, we really bounce around. I thought one thing that was really interesting is Green Bay goes up 7-0. The bomb to Reed, and then Josh Jacobs gets his first touchdown as a Green Bay Packer, which is kind of weird because I feel like he's gotten some goal line totes. He had that fumble at the one into the end zone against Indianapolis, but I feel like he's been close a couple of times. But he got his first touchdown as a Packer today. And then the Rams respond, and they go down the field, and on a 4th and goal, I think it was from the 5. It wasn't from the 1 or the 2 yard line where usually a team's going to be like, we're going to go for this, right? I think it was around the 5 yard line. They went for it, didn't get it. Green Bay's defense gets a big stop, obviously, looking back at it. I circled that moment because I mentioned the Rams were desperate. They're 1-3 entering this game today. They dropped to 1-4. I believe, and you can disagree if you want, that's completely fine. I believe early on in the game, first quarter, you're down 7-0, and you have it 4th and goal at the 5. I believe a 3-1 Rams team kicks the field goal there. I think they look at that situation and say, you know what? We got to come away with something. First quarter, plenty of time left. Let's get on the board 7-3. I do. I think a 3-1 Sean McVay-led team kicks the field goal there. I think a 1-3 Rams team is more desperate. They know the numbers. They kept bringing them up on the broadcast. They had one first-half touchdown in 4 games entering play today. Now, they got 1 against Green Bay, so they have 2. And you look at all their other offensive numbers, just bottom of the barrel in the NFL when it came to first half production. McVay's well aware of it. The TV broadcast made all of us well aware of it. And so there's a little more added pressure to finish those drives with 6 instead of 3. And I'll stick by it. I believe a 3-1 Rams team kicks the field goal there. Instead, they go for it. Packers get a huge 4th down stop and get the ball right back to the offense up 7-0. And so I thought that was a really key moment. Maybe it's because there's familiarity too, obviously, with McVay and Matt LaFleur, but I thought the Rams did an excellent job in the first half of pre-snap motion. They were gashing the Packers' run defense, and I'll have to go back and watch, obviously. I don't think the Packers did a whole lot of pre-snap motion, or at least pre-snap motion that really led to anything. It was the Rams who were really clicking and dialing up those long drives. Their 1 touchdown drive in the first half, they had the pick 6, obviously, which isn't a drive, but their 1 touchdown drive on offense, it felt like death by 1,000 cuts. They just kept running and running and running, but there was pre-snap motion with Tutu Atwell heavily in that first half used by McVay, and it worked really well. You'll have to go back and watch, and I don't want to single him out, but I'm going to on this play. There was a jet sweep to Tutu Atwell when they were nearing the red zone on that touchdown drive, and I'm not kidding you. Tutu Atwell got the jet sweep from Stafford, and he was already probably 3-4 steps to the outside before Isaiah McDuffie, who was playing inside linebacker, noticed that Tutu Atwell had the ball. I'm not even kidding you. I'm going to try to find this play later on in the week, and we'll bring it up, but it just showed the deception and the success that the Rams were having with all those guys moving and trying to fool the Green Bay defense. But it's a defense that sees it in practice because LaFleur comes from the McVay tree, right? And so it shouldn't be anything they're not used to. But yeah, that 1 touchdown drive felt like the Packers drives with Malik Willis, where Green Bay was able to just run at will against Indianapolis and Tennessee and then hit a decent pass when they needed to. So yeah, that touchdown drive of the Rams was not fun. Edgerrin Cooper had a sack in the first half. I'm very, very excited to look at the snap count totals for Edgerrin Cooper because it felt like he was on the field more. And Evan Williams, the rookie safety out of Oregon, felt like he was out there a ton today. He had the 4th down. I don't know if it'll go down as a PBU, but he was in coverage on the 4th down stop that ended up being the last play. It put the nail in the coffin for the Rams. Packers going to victory formation to bring the offense out on the field. But Edgerrin Cooper had a sack in the first half of Matt Stafford. I don't know how many times I have to say this over and over and over again. He can't get too many snaps. And I know they're trying to ease him in. He missed a lot of training camp. He missed some of the preseason. This dude needs to be on the field more. He's like the Energizer Bunny for that defense. He is pinballing around. And I know in week 1 against Philadelphia, the coaches had brought up, it might have been LaFleur. One of them brought up that, Edgerrin Cooper will certainly see more snaps, but he has to be aligned correctly. And there was one glaring run by Saquon Barkley in Brazil in week 1 where apparently Cooper wasn't in the right spot, and it led to a huge gain for Barkley. So obviously, yeah, he needs to be lined up correctly. But this dude, I think at the linebacker position can be. I'm not saying he is yet, but he can be a game wrecker for Hafley's crew. And he had the sack in the first half. He had the lone sack in the first half for Green Bay. I know it wasn't all, roses and candy canes. That pick 6 by Jordan Love, just I'm not speechless too often. I was pretty speechless after that one. Just a terrible decision, and it's tough because you don't want to take the safety. You don't want to give up points. You want to trust your athleticism and your arm strength that even though I'm falling back and I'm getting ready to fall out of the back of the end zone to give them 2 points, I have enough arm strength to still flick this puppy out of bounds. He didn't, and it went down for a pick 6 for the Rams, and they missed the extra point, but they still go up 13-7. I was stunned by that. It was Jordan Love's first career pick 6. Just, you can't have it. Like, to simplify it, those are plays that losing teams do when they lose games. Like, that's not a play. And it's not, if it was popping up more frequently, those fluky pick 6 bad decision plays, I'd be way more concerned. I don't think this is going to be a problem for Jordan Love moving forward. But when you look at, like, the Titans with Will Levis, it seemed like Will Levis had a highlight reel play once a week in a negative light, where it was like, Titans are losing games. It's not all because of Will Levis, but look at this pick 6 against the Bears, right? Look at this lateral where he's going down and flips it anyways against the Jets. Like, there were plays each week where it's like, that's what losing teams do. And when Love made that pick 6, that's what entered my mind. It's like, losing teams do that. The Packers aren't a losing team. They're a good team, right? We think they might be a very good team. But that one was a head-scratcher, and you can't really say much outside of, like, if you start stacking those up, those are decisions that will lose you football games. But I don't think it'll be an issue for Love. I thought the offensive line for large chunks of the game was, again, I'll have to go back and watch. I thought it was kind of miserable in pass protection. Thought paving holes in the ground game was better than it was in pass pro, but like the Rams were hitting home a couple of times on four-man rushes, which you never want to see. So I don't know what to make of it. The first few weeks, my gripe with the offensive line has been penalties, whether it's, holding, hand to the face, false starts, whatever. That has been my gripe with the offensive line today in pass protection. And I guess maybe you just tip your cap to the Rams and say they did a hell of a job. But I thought the pass protection for the first 2.5 quarters, first half for sure, like Love did them no favors. The pick six was atrocious. There were a couple of drops mixed in there as well. Jayden Reed made the big catch to put the Packers up 7-0 and get them to the 1 yard line, and then they go up 7-0. Then there was a third down on the very next drive, a third and short, and Reed just dropped one. Like Love put it right between the numbers, he just dropped it. And so there was, you can divvy up some of that blame, although the overarching theme here is you leave LA with a win and you move to 3-2. But I didn't like the pass protection. It didn't seem to hold up too well. And then, of course, at the end of the half, 13-7, Braden Narvison's out there for a 46-yard field goal, and bless his heart, he drained it, and he made all his extra points today. So a good week for what do they call him, Narv Dog, but for 46-yard field goals in the NFL should not be appointment television, and they are for the Green Bay Packers. And so I thought, I was trying to keep it level-headed. I thought Green Bay played a pretty terrible first half outside of that play to Jayden Reed, the 50-yard catch or however long it was. Outside of that, I thought they didn't get pressure on Stafford. The offensive line for Green Bay didn't hold up in pass protection. They were getting gashed in the ground game. I thought Green Bay played a pretty bad first half, and they were still only down 13-10. I don't care who the opponent is. I don't care if it's the Kansas City Chiefs are the worst team in the league. I don't care if it's the healthiest team in the league or a team ravaged with injuries, and of course the Rams were awfully banged up. If you're on the road in the NFL and you have a miserable first half and you can go into the locker room only down 3, that's a gift. And so I thought it could have been far worse for the Packers than what it was. I think the turning point in the game obviously was the fumble forced by Kingsley Enagbare, who punched it out. That was huge because the Rams were leading 13-10 at the time, and they were driving. They were starting to put things together again. And then once Green Bay took the lead, that's when the Rams sort of went away from the run a lot. And I love Matt Stafford, but a little bit behind the 8 ball when you're missing Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp and Higbee, right? And so you're missing pretty much all your top targets in the passing game. Once Green Bay got that lead, Stafford's capable of still, zipping in dimes left and right. But it's tougher, it's trickier when you're missing your top go-to guys you can rely on, guys you trust, guys who you're just in sync with on the field. And so I thought when Green Bay got the lead, I'm not going to say the Rams panicked, but they pretty much started going to the passing game, I thought, a lot more heavily than what they had been doing in the first half, and it was still only a one-possession game, and the Packers were able to pin their ears back a little bit. I didn't like the pass rush. It didn't hit home nearly as much as I thought it would, and then Xavier McKinney comes up with a huge interception. This dude is, Xavier McKinney's pretty good, right? He's 5 games, 5 interceptions, 1 in each game. He recovered a fumble today. Great punch out by Kingsley Enagbare. And I think you can look at some of these interceptions for McKinney and say, hey, for an NFL safety, these aren't tricky, right? Most of them, I don't remember all 5 off the top of my head, but a lot of them, he's just, boom, right there. But the key is he knows where to be. Right place, right time. That's where he gets the credit. He's not making yet these sensational acrobatic interceptions. A lot of them, it's just McKinney's right there. Right place, right time. He almost had 2 today. He probably should have had 2. But where he gets big credit is he knows where to be. He's watching the eyes of the quarterback. He knows where he's supposed to be. He knows where the quarterback's going, and he's feasting. 5 interceptions in 5 games. How do the Giants let a guy like that go? Crazy. Absolutely crazy. So I thought he was phenomenal. One more note on the defense, too, before we finish up with a couple of notes on the offense. 2nd and 10, I think it was for the Rams. They're around midfield, maybe a little bit into Packers territory, and I think it was 2nd and 10. Little over a minute left, Packers up 24-19. A 4-man rush got home, and I give Hafley credit. He dialed up the blitzes way more on that final drive for the Rams. The 4-man rush that finally got home, because this pass rush has not been good for Green Bay. And it wasn't good today either. And I just chuckled a little bit because it was a name I brought up last week. A name I brought up when Devontae Wyatt went down. I said, Colby Wooden was a 4th-round pick last year. He's been a healthy scratch every game this year. He was active today. And one thing I gave Goody credit for in one of the videos last week, I said there's no politicking. Carl Brooks was a 6th-round pick a year ago. Wooden was a 4th-round pick. They play the same position. Carl Brooks has been Carl Brooks has been active, and he's gotten run each and every week so far this year, while the 4th-round pick, Wooden, who was 2 rounds higher than Brooks, has been healthy and active. Wooden active today with Devontae Wyatt out. The 4-man rush that finally hit home because, past weeks I was like, man, I love that Hafley once in a while will throw out Rayshawn Preston, Enagbari, and LVN all up front as the 4-man rush for Green Bay. The 4-man rush that hit home was Colby Wooden, Carl Brooks, Lucas Van Ness, and Preston Smith. Who had that on their bingo card? Credit to those guys. Credit to Wooden coming up big. A couple notes for the offense, and then we'll get out of here. I am wondering if this is a second-half offense. And, of course, I say that somewhat facetiously. I don't say that really as a compliment. Down 28-7 at half to Minnesota. Obviously, the offense wasn't the only problem a week ago in the first half, but it was stagnant. It was lethargic in the first half. The offense looked lost trying to solve the riddle of Brian Flores' defense, and then they figured it out in the second half. First half against the Rams. I don't think they were lethargic. They couldn't get going. And then once they got the ball rolling and the defense forced that turnover on the Enagbari forced fumble in the second half, the offense got going and didn't stop, right? And so they got to get going earlier. The second half version of the offense has been great the last 2 weeks. The first half needs to be burned. It needs to be thrown in the trash. But figure out what's going on and figure out what's going wrong. And then have the second half offense look like the offense for the whole game. And the last note on the offense, 3rd and 12, that's what it was. There was a 3rd and 12 late where Green Bay was trying to milk some clock. I think it was when it was 24-13. So the Rams hadn't scored on that 91-yard, 2-minute, 32-second drive. And I made a note of this just because 3rd and 12, obvious passing down. You're trying to chew up some clock late. Jordan Love scrambled out of the pocket, picked up 12 or 13 yards for the first down, and I wanted to make a note of it. That knee looked really healthy. I've been kind of waiting for that one big run to see how he looks, if there's any gimp, if there's any hesitation. He didn't slide, which he couldn't. If he would have slid, he would have been short. It was one of those where he had to just go for it at the last second to move the sticks. He knew that. Knee looked pretty good on that run, which was just kind of reassuring to see. A lot of things dissected. We'll go through more throughout the week. Big point here. Packers win 24-19. I do want to throw in one more thing. I had someone text me this morning, and this person who texted me, I know for a fact, doesn't sports bet. I don't think this person's ever made a sports bet in their life. And as a joke, they texted me 5 picks today, and I'll put the image of that up here. This person texted me 5 picks, spreads in the NFL today, and I was left speechless. I didn't know what to do with the information, so I did what anyone would do, and I sprinkled a little bit on it. All 5 hit. Someone who I know for a fact has never made a sports bet before, doesn't even really watch sports, hit a 5-leg parlay. It'll be up on the screen here. I'm trying to remember it. It was Bears, Commanders, Packers, Cardinals, and you can see it on the screen. But I'm forgetting who the 5th one was. But yeah, just absolutely insane. So helped line the pockets a little bit this weekend. Packers beat the Rams 24-19. Now welcome in Arizona, who just took out San Francisco this afternoon. So keep your eyes on Arizona. That's a feisty bunch, and you're getting another quarterback who's very, very mobile in Kyler Murray, who will want to beat you with his legs as much as he beats you with his arm. So it'll be an interesting matchup, not a walkover whatsoever. Thinking when the schedule came out, a lot of people looked at the Arizona game, and they're like, there's a win for the Packers. There's a win. I don't know. It's never easy in the NFL. Cardinals just beat San Francisco in San Francisco. So we'll see. Big one here, though. Packers 3-2 on the season, back over 500. Mitch, I'm on YouTube. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time.